podcast. I'm your host, Pri, and today I'm going to be talking about Fairoaksfarms and in United States beef consumption. So what's going on is Fairoaksfarm, they had someone that was coming by and they were videotaping how the animal handlers were handling the cows, and it wasn't good. So I'm going to get into that, and I want to cite the Chicago Sun-Times, NPR, and National Institutes of Health. Grocers have begun removing a popular Chicago dairy company's products from their shelves after an animal rights group released graphic video showcasing workers kicking and throwing young calves at the company's flagship Indiana farm. Animal Recovery Mission said that an investigator for the Miami-based animal rights group secretly recorded the distributing footage last year while working for several months at Fairoaksfarms, a popular destination for school field trips, which Food and Wine magazine has called the Disneyland of agricultural tourism. The group said that the footage shows the daily mistreatment of the resident farm animals at the farm's dairies about 70 miles south of Chicago, located off I-65 in northwestern Indiana. Due to the many years Fairoaksfarms has been in business, it is impossible to number the amount of calves and cows that have been inhumanely died at the hands of this company, said Rachel Taylor, a spokeswoman for Animal Recovery Mission. Fairoaksfarms owns Chicago-based dairy company Fairlife, which is headquartered in the West Loop and sells a variety of ultra-filtered milk products, including Core Power protein milkshakes. Employees at Fairlife declined to comment Wednesday. Jewel Osco, the largest grocery chain in the Chicagoland area, said in a statement Wednesday that it was removing Fairlife products from all its 188 stores in the city and suburbs. At Jewel Osco, we strive to maintain high animal welfare standards across all areas of our business and work in partnership with our vendors to ensure those standards are upheld, the grocery chain wrote. We apologize for any inconvenience. Little damage control there. Tony's Fresh Market, another supermarket with 15 locations in the Chicago area, also announced it would remove Fairlife from its shelves. In light of the devastating news story that broke about Fairlife and Fair Oaks Dairy Farm, Tony's Fresh Market will no longer carry Fairlife products. The grocer said in a statement, "Thank you for voicing your concerns. We truly appreciate your understanding. Thank you for shopping with us." And this is something I have to say about that, for these grocery stores that are breaking off business with Fairlife is, if you know this stuff is going down, it's not okay to just say, end your business and then go to somewhere else and just get in business with them and not deploy any new, say, standards for those people. And maybe they are. Maybe this is something that they're doing in the business that they didn't release in the press statement. But I just don't think that it's good to say, hey, okay, we're not going to do business with you anymore, but we're going to go somewhere else and we're not going to check into how they do their business. So I think maybe on both ends there should be some kind of compliance that they have inspectors go around and from both sides and check to see what the standards are on how these animals are being treated. Back to the article. Fairoaksfarms founder Mike McCloskey said in a statement Tuesday that 4 employees seen in the video have been fired and actions have been taken to prevent further abuse. A 5th person shown in the video was a third-party truck driver who was transporting calves, he said. Now, I also read in a separate article that he was unaware that this had been happening, and 3 of the people that were involved he had fired months before because of something else. And so he didn't just fire these people as soon as this came out. He started taking action beforehand, before the article came out. And I'll move on. As a veterinarian who whose life and work is dedicated to the care, comfort, and safety of all animals, this has affected me deeply, McCloskey said. I am disappointed for not being aware of this kind of awful treatment occurring, and I take full responsibility for what has happened. I also take full responsibility to correct and ensure that every employee understands, embraces, and practices the core values on which our organization stands. The video shows newborn calves being thrown in and out of their huts by employees, young calves being kicked in the head, and the carcasses of dead calves piled together in the dirt. The footage additionally shows employees striking calves with their hands and steel rods and being burnt with branding irons. A portion of the video also showed what appeared to be an employee using cocaine in a work vehicle on site, while other footage showed what appeared to be marijuana plants being grown on the property. McCloskey described the plants in his statement as an invasive perennial species. The Newton County Sheriff's Office said in a statement Wednesday that it's requested the names of the now fired workers and the person who shot the footage. The agency said it would work with the county's prosecutor's office to determine if any criminal charges will be filed. We acknowledge the need for humane treatment of animals and the need to hold individuals that have gone beyond an acceptable farm management practice accountable for their actions, the department said in its statement. The Coca-Cola Company, which distributes Fairlife products, said in a statement that it has full confidence in Fairlife's management team to urgently address the issues with Fairoaksfarms. They recognize the seriousness of this situation, as their founding principles are grounded in a strong commitment to sustainability, transparency, and the highest standards of animal welfare, the statement read. We fully support and respect the proactive approach that Fairlife and Fairoaksfarms have taken, and we continue to stay in contact with them to lend any support they need. The sprawling farm with 36,000 cows just opened a hotel on its property and features a restaurant and tours of its milking operations. It also includes a theater where you can watch cows giving birth and a number of other exhibits on farming. In an animal care section on its website, Fairlife says newborn calves are visually monitored daily and are given immediate and proper medical treatment should they become ill, and that the company accepts nothing less than the utmost care, respect, and humane treatment for our cows. Now, I'm sure at one time that was the case, but it seems like the standards have been somewhat laxed a bit, and those standards are going to need to come back up because it's unacceptable to be A, treating animals that way, and B, to let it just going on for an indeterminate amount of time. And it also brings up another thing is beef. There is a lot of meat that we as Americans eat in this country. Now, I believe in 2017 the statistics were, and I'm going to get into this in a minute. In 2017, the statistics were 24 billion pounds of beef were consumed by Americans, which is a ton of beef. And it gets even crazier because they say in 2019 we're going to consume 57.6 billion pounds of beef, which is absolutely unbelievable. So something to take into consideration. Also some health risks with eating so much beef. Here's the article. A new study adds to the evidence that eating red meat on a regular basis may shorten your lifespan. The findings suggest that meat eaters might help improve their health by substituting other healthy protein sources for some of the red meat they eat. Past research has tied red meat to increased risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and certain cancers. The studies have also pointed to an elevated risk of mortality from red meat intake, but most of these studies were done over limited periods of time, had design flaws, or were done in populations with diets other than that of the typical American. A research team led by Dr. Frank Hugh of the Harvard School of Public Health set out to learn more about the association between red meat intake and mortality. They studied over 37,000 men from the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, beginning in 1986, and over 83,000 women from the Nurses' Health Study beginning in 1980. All the participants were free of cardiovascular disease and cancer at the start of the study. The participants filled out food frequency questionnaires every 4 years. The scientists also gathered information every 2 years on a variety of other health factors, including body weight, cigarette smoking, physical activity level. The study was supported by NIH's National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institutes, National Cancer Institute, and National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases. It appeared online in Archives of Internal Medicine on March 12, 2012. Almost 24,000 participants died during the study, including about 5,900 from cardiovascular disease and about 9,500 from cancer. Those who consumed the highest levels of both unprocessed and processed red meat had the highest risk of all cause of mortality, cancer mortality, and cardiovascular disease mortality. After adjusting for other risk factors, the researchers calculated that one additional serving per day of unprocessed red meat over the course of the study raised the risk of total mortality by 13%. An extra serving of processed red meat, such as bacon, hot dogs, sausage, and salami, raised the risk by 20%. So, stay away from that salami. Bacon's so good though, man. Gosh, I love bacon. The researchers estimated that substituting one serving per day of other foods like fish, poultry, nuts, legumes, low-fat dairy, and whole grains for red meat could lower the risk of mortality by 7 to 19%. If the participants had all consumed fewer than half a serving per day, about 1.5 ounces of red meat, the scientists calculated 9.3% of the deaths in men and 7.6% of the deaths in women could have been prevented. So obviously it seems that men are eating more red meat than women. And it just seems like to be such a I don't want to say status thing, but it's like a lot of guys, it's like, yeah, I gotta have a steak with dinner. It's like the manly thing to do to have a steak, And it seems that that might not be to our benefit. So here are some statistics on what it takes to create the beef. So when you get a quarter pound of beef, you have to have, it calculates to 6.7 pounds of grains and forage of feed for the cattle, 52.8 gallons of drinking water and irrigating food crops. This is for 1/4 pound of beef. I'll read this again. 6.7 pounds of grains and forage, 52.8 gallons of drinking water and irrigating feed crops, 74.5 square feet for grazing and growing feed crops, and 1,036 BTUs for feed production and transport. And that's enough to power a typical microwave for 18 minutes. That's for 1/4 pound of beef. Now, how long can this go on? The amount of beef that has been consumed by Americans has gone up steadily since 1970, but it has gone down a tiny bit. And maybe that's from people becoming more aware of the health risks of eating such a high amount of beef, of red meat. And I'm not going to say that you can't go out and eat red meat. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we just shouldn't eat so much. Another big thing is 9 billion pounds of chicken is consumed in the United States every year. And it makes you think, how many chickens are slaughtered for us to get our meat, and our population is just growing, by the year, and there needs to come to a point where, it's going to come to a point where we won't be able to to sustain everybody that's living here. We won't be able to sustain all of the meat that typically people are having on a day-to-day basis, and what's going to give. And I'll tell you what's going to give. It's not going to be it's not going to be the beef, because there's going to come to a point where we're just not going to be able to make it. So something to take into consideration. Obviously, diet is a very, very big thing. I did a podcast with Katie Bolte, a few months back. Be sure to check that out. We talked about diets and the basics of diet and what you want your diet to consist of, and that's actually less of the main course and more vegetables, and to add some fruit into each of your meals. So that's something to take into consideration. We're getting into this to summer, where we're just about in the summer, and we're getting into that summer diet where it's not as disciplined as it is in the winter time. So keep an eye out for what you're eating. Have a good time, but at the same time, just keep in mind, what you're putting into your body and what you're feeding. Think of the processed food that you're putting in. Maybe you shouldn't have 3 bratwursts and a hot dog at that barbecue. Try and limit yourself to 1 or what have you. So that's what I got for you today, guys. Remember to, treat your animals kindly. They are living beings. And that goes for all animals. They should all be treated with respect. And I would like to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. I'm very appreciative. I'm very appreciative to the people that I'm talking on Instagram. You guys are great. I love hearing your feedback, and I'm very appreciative of it. And we'll be back next week, guys. I got an interview with you guys. I got an interview for you next week. I'll post on Instagram who I'm going to be interviewing, and stay tuned for it. It's going to be a really, really good one. So this is Pre out.